Hi guys, it's Chris here from Mitchell's Cricket, and as you can see here, I'm doing some pads reviews today, and I'm starting off with the Ganador pads. These are the Ganador Pro, and these are the real top end of their range. It's always really exciting to get my hands on an upcoming brand, especially their top end product in their pads range, and there's quite a few features that I really like about these pads. I think a fair bit of thought has gone into them, and for a top-end pad, I do think they're not cheap, but I think they're very reasonably priced for a top-end pad, which we'll talk about going forward. But as we do generally with pads, I'm wearing one of them, and to be honest, I've been wearing this for probably the last half an hour, while Paul and I have been talking and walking around the store to get a sense for them, and I think they are pretty comfortable. They do wrap around the leg very nicely. On the shin, sorry, they're very comfortable, which I'll talk about in a minute. The only criticism is they're a little heavier than I'd like for a pad, and you do slightly notice that. They do weigh over a kilogram per pad, which, to be honest, is modern pads towards the heavier side of things, but you can see why that is, and I'll explain that. So let's first talk about the aesthetics. I love it. I know Paul and I are both a massive fan. This kind of, the Ganador motif is obviously this lion. And this is all white and embossed, a 3D textured line, which I just think is a really stunning touch. I think for a brand, I know a lot of people have kind of criticised the Ganador bats, which I'll show you here, for kind of being a little bit loud and garish with their stickers. I think they've really listened and taken that on board, so their top end is a bit more subtle and less in your face. I think it's lovely. It's a traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's an 8, so it's slightly one more. Some people go 7, some people go 8. I prefer the 8 canes, it's extra protection. They are a rounded cane with HDF foam, high density foam in there for extra protection. Traditional knee roll, and then they've got the pointed canes on the top hat, which is very good protection. So it's a fairly traditional standard looking front pad with some nice subtle design features. Show you round onto the inside. Now, my first criticism really is on the buckles. There's no sort of buckle padding or protection there, which for a top end pad I'd like to see, and that's obviously, you know, those little sort of leather flaps here, which isn't ideal, but it's not the end of the world. You've got fairly padded straps, to be fair, so you're not going to notice too much. The one thing to note about these straps is they aren't that long, so if you're someone with bigger legs, these might not be perfect. In fact, I'll show you here. That is probably as tight as I can get that. Now, if you've got bigger legs, you might end up only getting it to there, and it's not the most kind of secure. However, a lot of people tell us that they hate the pad straps being too long because they have to tuck them in, or I know people have been given out caught behind it to hit the pad strap. So actually, I think that's a good thing overall, but it is worth noting if you are someone with bigger legs. You've got a leather instep section here, which I think is nice. It's a grain leather, which should be very hard wearing, and certainly is pretty soft. And you've got this really deep sponge section, which sits on the instep of the foot. I like this kind of black and white theme with the black branding here. It's a really good mesh system. The only thing I'd say here, and this is an incredibly comfy, this is all sponge by the way here, and then you've got this kind of PU face sponge on the shin. What I would say, it's not going to be the coldest pad. The airflow is not great because of all the sponge, and it might go a little bit dirty a bit quicker because of this sponge generally tends to absorb sweat. So that would be my only criticism. There's no real airflow, but it is incredibly comfy. That's why it weighs a little bit more, incidentally, because it's such thick sponge. In fact, you can see there how much you've got, incredibly thick, and it is really comfy. I do like it. And that extends further up here to the top by the knee. You've got a knee locator here and a proper strong knee cup as well, which I will show you now. You can hear that, very good protection, and I like that deep knee section there, so it does really lock into your knees, you can see there. And that brings on to one of mine, certainly Paul's favourite section on top of this, is this quilted top hat. It's incredibly good attention to detail, very comfortable with this. I like this black knit, and then the again, that Ganador motif of the line. I think that's a really nice touch, and it certainly looks like a top end pad, guys, there's no question. It's a very good quality design. Now, of course, the main thing to do is the protection, which requires the mallet test, which I've got here for you. So we'll start, as Paul would say, start on the base of the stickers, start on the toe and work up to the base of the stickers. So this is the instep area, good quality. And then we'll work up to this knee roll. Yeah, great protection. This is the protection you'd expect from a top end pad. And now the top hat actually has very good protection. That's one of the real positives. I know Ganador promote that. So if you are a slightly shorter player, I think these pads would be perfect because you probably have slightly thinner legs and therefore the straps are perfect, and you're more likely to be on the top of the pad of the bounce. So I think that's excellent protection there. So I do think those would be perfect for someone who is kind of more like the 5'9" to 5'11" sort of height, maybe a little bit shorter as well. So there you go, guys. They are the Ganador Pro pads. The last thing to talk about, of course, is the price on these. Now, these are a top-end pad, and we're selling them at Itches Cricket for just below the £100 mark, which in the modern market is kind of the middle end of the top section. Is the, you know, a lot of the bigger brands are now looking at 120 or even more for a pair of pads, which I think is getting a little bit crazy. And they're not materially that much better than these Ganador Pro pads. I think they're a really nice looking pad, even with the nice sort of black piping there to protect them, which I should have talked about. It means they will last longer when they rub into the ground. Very good protection, very comfortable. Perfect for someone. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them if you're playing like a lot of our customers out in the UAE or Dubai or Florida where it's very hot. But if you're playing in England where it barely gets anywhere better than cloudy in the summer, then I think these would be absolutely perfect for you guys. So very positive top-end pad from Ganador. It's an exciting brand. Do stay tuned to the channel and subscribe. We've got a lot more of these videos coming up. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon.